At Fide.email, we believe in protecting your privacy and supporting your faith. Fide.email offers peace of mind with features like end-to-end encryption and secure communications tools. Your data stays private and your values remain intact. Choose an email provider that understands what matters to you. Make the switch to Fide.email today. You will be hard-pressed to find a place in the church that is the canary in the coal mine for the rest of the church, where the rest of us are going. You'll be harder-pressed to find a place like that more than Germany. The German bishops have been at the forefront of changes demanded in the church. We saw this most recently with the Synod on Synodality, where while the Synod was going on and all the faithful were fretting about possible changes to the everyday faith life of Catholics and what we're expected to believe coming from that Synod, the Vatican itself was trying to clamp most of that down and saving it for the result of the procedural changes they were pushing. But over in Germany, they were skipping past procedure entirely and focusing on the real outcome of synodality, which is essentially a democratization of the faith, and whatever it is we believe is essentially a result of a democratization process. And the German bishops were at the forefront of this entire movement in the Western Church, to the point now where they're reaping the rewards of their bad deeds, and they are lamenting very seriously what it is they've done. In Germany, the data is out. It has been for a few months, and the German bishops have had a chance to look at it. That data isn't good. They see what it is they've accomplished. They see what works they have wrought. And they have a solution, and it's a weird one. They're not here to correct the errors they've made. They're here to double down. There's a lack of religiosity in Germany. They see it. They can't deny it. And yet they refuse to accept reality. And why is that? It's because those married to ideology will rarely, if ever, confront reality, confront mistakes, accept that sometimes your best laid plans for your ideology don't match reality. And in a situation like that, it is hard for ideologues to break free from the confines of their own ideology. And synodality is an ideological foisting onto the church. It's ideology replacing faith. They truly believe that the church needs to get with the times, a refrain we've heard for 60 years. They believe it. And they don't understand yet that all this getting with the times has a consequence. And that consequence is a loss of faith. Let's turn to our story today, which brings us an old friend back to the discussion, and that's Bishop Georg Batzing, the head of the German Bishops' Conference, a man who likes to dress like a Protestant minister, engage in ecumenical dialogue with all the other religions in Germany. And as he has some thoughts on this lack of religiosity in the church today, let's take a look at what Bishop Georg Batzing has to say. For a little context, we'll go to Novus Ordo Watch here over on X with the headline, or with this: how ironic. The chief apostate of Germany, the Novus Ordo Bishop Georg Batzing, who is head of the nation's bishops' conference, laments dwindling faith. And he posts a link here to a Die Tagespost interview, which is paywalled, and any attempt to it's just very secure. But I did read enough of it to see that it's referencing an address he gave. And here's an actual summary, an executive summary of his address that he gave from his own website. Here he talks about the following. He says, quote, in his pastoral letter, the bishop also addresses current challenges. He expresses concern about the growing distance many people feel from their faith. Results of the Sixth Church Membership Survey from 2024 revealed that only 32% of Catholic Church members agreed with the statement that God revealed himself in Jesus Christ. 32% of Catholics in Germany agree with that statement. Bishop Batzing calls for people to reflect on their own faith and live it consciously. Every generation of Christians, indeed each and every one of us, should be able to answer the question, who was Jesus Christ really, and who is he for me today? He encourages believers to engage with the central statements of the Creed and to reflect on the significance of Jesus Christ for their own lives. In doing so, he also emphasizes the beauty and coherence of faith. The creed is not just a summary of our faith, but a praise of God. It teaches us because it connects us with a great community of believers across time and borders. Now let's pause here and point out the obvious. The creed is a statement that, if you understand what it means, is a reaffirmation of what the faith teaches in the most basic level. But if you don't understand what the creed teaches, then reciting the creed doesn't really mean anything. And the bishops in many places, especially Germany, have failed spectacularly to teach what does the elements of the creed actually mean? What do the words contained therein actually mean for a Catholic? They have failed spectacularly to pass on the faith that way. And so calling on people to recite the creed and to understand the creed, how about you teach the creed, the basic elements of the Catholic faith? When he says the creed, he's meaning like the Nicene Creed, probably. It doesn't matter. It could be the Apostolic, the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, or any of the other creeds. There are several of them approved by the church. I got a video on all the creeds that are formally approved by the church, teaching statements. The Athanasian Creed is the longest of the three. That's why you never really hear it said at Mass. But his solution, of course, is nonsense. His solution here is this: synodality has lived unity. Because, of course, synodality is the solution. In his pastoral letter, the bishop also looks at the unity of the church. He points to the long tradition of ecclesial debates and the value of constructive struggle for faith. He sees the current World Synod on synodality as a continuation of this path. From its beginning, the church has learned to discuss with one another in order to deepen faith and preserve unity. Even today, it is crucial to remain in dialogue and to orient ourselves together toward Christ. He emphasizes that Christian unity is a powerful witness to the world. In this context, he welcomes initiatives that advocate for a common Easter celebration for all Christians. The full pastoral letter can be found on this page. Yada, yada, yada. If you want to read it, I'll have a link to this in the show notes at returntotradition.org. I will warn you, it will be in German, so you will need to translate it. I would recommend using DeepL if you're going to for that, or maybe Grok over on X if you have access to it. But that's his solution, is synodality, essentially. And the laity are lukewarm, with only 32% actually having a basic idea of who Jesus was, or is. Again, we're talking about the Germans, so we'll use the word was because most of them don't even believe what the church says about Jesus Christ. But they lack the faith at the most fundamental level. And what's really amazing about this is Germany is just a few years ahead of the rest of us in North America and Western Europe more broadly. And for proof of this, we can go to an article published by the Germans themselves on their own website, katholisch.de, the official news arm of the German bishops, which if you ever want to really see what they think of you, you can actually just go to their website. That's the wrong one. Let's try this again. Yeah, here we go. Headline: Analysis Religiosity in Germany continues to decline. It was published in December of last year. This is the latest data on religiosity. And you got a hint of it previously. Only 32% of Catholics believe one of the most basic, simple statements about Christianity in general, about the incarnation, when it comes to who was Jesus Christ. 32%. I'm reminded of the belief in the real presence numbers out of the United States. Only 1 in 3 Catholics believing in the real presence. I'd love to see what that number is for Germany. How many, if you are watching this and you're in Germany, let me know if you know if there's ever been a survey done of Catholics in Germany about belief in the real presence. I'd be very curious to see that. But here's what Bishop Batzing is lamenting and thinks that synodality is essentially the solution for. Religiousness, both religious and general, in Germany appears to be continuing to decline. There's no indication that a decline in church-affiliated religiosity is being offset by an increase in non-church religiosity, according to the evaluation and analysis of the 6th Church Membership Survey, published in Hanover on Tuesday. Non-church religiosity has also declined in the past 2 decades. Initial results and key findings of the survey were presented at the Synod of the Evangelical Church in Germany in Ulm at the end of 2023. The EKD has conducted this broad-based survey every 10 years since 1972 to obtain the most comprehensive picture possible of church reality. For the first time, the German Bishops' Conference participated. Only 13% of the population considers themselves highly religious. The new analysis confirmed previously known figures. The vast majority are church members. However, even among church members, non-religious people are the most common category. Wow. The population in East Germany is significantly less religious than that in West Germany, the current analysis continues. Nevertheless, the social reach of the church institution is considerable even in East Germany and has become significantly decoupled from the low levels of church attendance and religiosity there. The idea that members of a religious community adhere exclusively to the faith historically transmitted and written down by that community comes from a distant past. For more common today than belief without church membership is membership without faith, meaning people who still go to church but don't believe. Remember what Batzing was lamenting, people not even knowing what it was or who it is Jesus Christ is. Therefore, leaving the church almost exclusively leads to non-denominationalism, and they are followed by virtually no joining of other religious communities. It continued. In no single religious community is there a quantitatively significant net growth through conversions. Only the category of non-denominationalists is growing, and dramatically so. The approximately 700-page analysis of the sixth church membership survey, entitled How Do You Feel About the Church? On the Relevance of Religion and Church in a Pluralistic Society, was published by the Social Science Institute of the Evangelical Church in Germany and the Catholic Office for Missionary Pastoral Care. If you want to read it, I'm sure you can find a link to it in here, which I'll have a link in my show notes at returntotradition.org. Now, there's a glaring omission there, by the way. There's a group growing in numbers in Germany and all across Europe. Very religious, extremely religious so, to the point where every Christmas, believers get a real up-close and personal look at just how religious they are. Again, it's the followers of the crescent moon religion and its false prophet. They weren't surveyed. Wonder why that is. Maybe because if they were surveyed, the data would not be the most comforting for the believers in Germany. And that's a problem. Because people are devolving away the way they always do. When societies become less religious, the first thing they do is they stop affiliating with institutional religion. That's the first thing they do, meaning Catholicism or any of the more organized forms of high church Protestantism. They stop associating with them, first and foremost. And then what happens? They go to pious private religiosity, home church, and that kind of thing, where all sorts of wild ideas run rampant. And then they go from that to just sort of, just a me and God kind of thing. I read my Bible on my own. And from there, it devolves into non-belief. That's how it always happens. It's what we're seeing in the United States. It's what we're seeing everywhere. It's just that Germany is light years ahead of everybody else. And that's what Bishop Batzing is concerned about. And he has every right to be concerned about that, except for one problem. He won't look in the mirror to see the cause of this. It's he and his forebears, the German bishops who came before, who helped promote the radical changes of Vatican II in the most loony, fringe way possible. That's how you got there. Cardinal Walter Kasper was a post-conciliar leader in the de-Christianization of Germany. Cardinal Walter Kasper, the guy who, for decades, since the 80s, was promoting Holy Communion for divorced and civilly remarried Catholics. And he finally got his way with Amoris Laetitia. Cardinal Kasper, who hid away like Carrick-type priests himself, even offered to resign over it when he was already kind of close to retirement age anyway, 5-6 years ago, and the Vatican wouldn't accept his resignation. Kasper, all right, and men like him, the generation before the Batzings took over, and his ilk took over Germany. They're the ones who created this situation in Germany, and of course, their brother bishops who are like-minded across every Western country. We could wax eloquently about the influence of the Dulleses and the rest of them, the Bernardins and men like them in America in the 70s and 80s, who created the situation we're in here today. And I'm very curious what you have to say about this. So, do you think that Batzing can actually turn this around? Is a man like him capable of turning this around? I'm very curious what you have to say about this. So let me know in the comments. And I would agree with the comment here from Edu that it's like 10% or less believe in the real presence in Germany. I would probably expect that to be the case. That's how far gone they are. They're just a few years away. from being, the U.S. is just a few years away from following Germany in its footsteps. But let me know what you have to say about this in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It certainly helps. So just sharing this on social media, that helps too. If you ever thought about supporting the work of Return to Tradition, you can do so in the description box below. Options, Patreon, Subscribe Star, that kind of thing. All options asked for by viewers of this channel, as well as that join button below. Helps keep these daily messages coming. Please pray for the church and everybody we spoke about today. Again, not here to make you have strong animosity towards Bishop Batzing or anybody else. Pray for them. If you feel that rising tide of animosity towards them, turn that into prayer for their soul. So the greatest acts of charity you can do. And as always, again, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.